The silence in our Denver home used to be a comfort, a testament to the quiet, stable life Sarah and I had built over 25 years. I was Ethan Reed, an architect, 50 years old, living what I believed was a good life, a life I had meticulously pieced together after a traumatic memory loss incident in my early 20s. I thought I had overcome it, found peace. The past, Sarah always said, was a dark tunnel we'd emerged from, and there was no need to look back. For a long time, I believed her. I clung to that belief with the desperation of a drowning man to a life raft. But lately, the silence wasn't comforting. It was hollow, a vast, echoing chamber where my own thoughts bounced back at me, distorted and disquieting. The dreams started subtly at first, like faint ripples on a still pond. Then they became waves, crashing against the shores of my carefully constructed reality. Flashes of faces I didn't recognize, places that felt both foreign and intimately familiar, emotions so raw and potent they left me gasping awake in the dark. A song, a scent, a turn of phrase could trigger a brief, dizzying sensation of déjà vu, a sliver of something just out of reach. My heart would pound, my breath would catch, and a cold sweat would prickle my skin. I'd lie there, staring at the ceiling, trying to grasp the fading wisps of these phantom memories, but they always dissolved into the dawn, leaving behind only an unsettling ache in my chest. It felt like a part of me, a fundamental piece, was missing, and whatever it was trying desperately to claw its way back. Sarah had been my steadfast support, my anchor, in the aftermath of my amnesia. She was there, she said, when I woke up in the hospital, confused and lost, with no recollection of my life before the accident. She told me stories of our early days, of how we met in college, our shared dreams, the difficult period after the accident when she helped me rebuild everything. She painted a picture of a loving, patient woman who had dedicated herself to my recovery, helping me forge a new identity from the shards of my trauma. She was my past, present, and future, the keeper of memories I couldn't access. I remember her gentle hand in mine, her soft voice assuring me that everything would be okay, that we would get through this together. She was beautiful then, with kind eyes and a reassuring smile, and she became the center of my world, the only solid ground in a landscape of fog. Looking back, the signs were there, faint whispers against the clamor of my gratitude and nascent love for her. Any time I ventured a question about my early childhood or tried to remember a specific detail from before the accident, a subtle shift would occur. Her smile would tighten almost imperceptibly. Her eyes would lose a flicker of their warmth. She'd always have a plausible explanation. "Oh, honey, you know how patchy your memory is. It's probably just a misremembered detail from a movie." Or, "Why dwell on what's gone? We have so much good now." There was an insistent undercurrent to her reassurances, a quiet redirection away from any inquiry into the past. It felt less like protection and more like curation, like she was carefully tending a garden, deciding which blooms were allowed to grow and which weeds needed to be pulled. I was so thankful for her, so dependent on her narrative, that I pushed those fleeting moments of unease deep down, dismissing them as my own anxieties, remnants of a broken mind. She had been my savior. How could I question her? The nightmares grew more insistent, more vivid. They weren't abstract fears. They were fragments of a specific, tangible life. A sun-drenched park, the smell of freshly cut grass, a woman's laugh, bright and clear, not Sarah's. A small, cozy apartment filled with books. A silver pendant. I'd wake with my heart hammering, a desperate yearning for something I couldn't name. I started to scribble down details, words, sensations, anything I could snatch from the fading edge of sleep. My architect's mind, trained to observe and record, rebelled against the void. It felt like a forensic investigation of my own soul. Sarah noticed my increasing preoccupation. "Ethan, you're looking exhausted," she'd say, her voice laced with concern, but her eyes held a different, harder glint. "These dreams, you need to talk to Dr. Evans again. You're letting the past consume you. It's not healthy." She'd touch my arm, a gesture of affection that now felt strangely possessive, like a tether. Her concern felt less like empathy and more like a gentle pressure, pushing me back into the narrative she had created. "Let the past stay buried," she repeated, almost like a mantra. "We made a choice to move forward." The word choice hung in the air, heavy and loaded, as if I had chosen to forget, chosen to erase a life. I tried to investigate, cautiously at first. I sifted through old photo albums Sarah had curated, but they only started from the point of our life together. There were no photos of my pre-amnesia self, no glimpses of the life she claimed I'd forgotten. When I asked, she said, "Oh, most of those were lost in the move after the accident. You weren't really attached to them anyway, honey. We built new memories." Her explanation was always so reasonable, so logical, it was hard to argue with. Still, the internal pressure mounted. I remembered an old friend, Mark, from before college, vaguely. I found his number through an old family contact. When I called, his voice was hesitant, almost cold. "Ethan, it's been a long time." I tried to explain my memory issues, my fragmented dreams, my need to connect the dots. He listened in strained silence. Then, a quick, almost panicked dismissal. "Look, Ethan, I'm really busy. It's probably best to just let things be. Move on. You have a good life now, right? Don't dredge up old ghosts." He hung up before I could press further. The call left me rattled, a knot tightening in my stomach. Why the evasion? Why the fear? It felt like everyone I tried to reach out to was acting from a script I hadn't been given. Distant cousins I vaguely remembered speaking to on Christmas cards would offer clipped, polite conversations, quickly changing the subject when I mentioned my past, avoiding eye contact during our rare family gatherings. It was like I was a character in a play, and everyone else knew the plot twist except me. This collective silence, this avoidance, fueled a creeping paranoia that gnawed at me day and night. Was I truly losing my mind? Or was there a truth so terrible no one wanted to speak it aloud? The weight of this silent conspiracy began to crush me. Sarah's concern escalated into thinly veiled accusations of obsession. "You're alienating people, Ethan," she said one evening, after I'd tried, unsuccessfully, to connect with another old friend on social media. "Everyone knows about your memory loss. It makes people uncomfortable when you start digging. You need to focus on us." Her voice was soft, but the underlying message was clear. My search was selfish, damaging to our relationship, and ultimately, a sign of my own mental instability. She'd often suggest that my research was unhealthy, a dangerous spiral into a past that caused me nothing but pain. She'd subtly redirect me, filling my schedule with social engagements, trips, or projects, making it harder to find quiet time to think, to search. She had become my gatekeeper, not just to the present, but to the past itself. I started to believe that perhaps I was truly broken, that these fragmented memories were just my trauma playing tricks, that Sarah, my devoted wife, was right all along. The self-doubt became a suffocating blanket, smothering my nascent curiosity under layers of guilt and fear. One Saturday morning, Sarah came into my study, a bright, airy room that had once been my sanctuary. She held a flyer for an antique consignment shop. "Ethan, darling," she said, her voice light and cheerful. "Remember that old desk in the garage? The one your grandmother left you? It's just collecting dust out there. We could sell it, make some space." I had acquired the desk years ago, one of the few physical objects from my pre-amnesia life that Sarah hadn't found a reason to discard. It was a beautiful, dark oak piece, heavily carved, with a strange, almost gothic feel. I had a vague, comforting association with it, a faint whisper of warmth I couldn't explain. I had always resisted getting rid of it, even though I rarely used it. Now, Sarah's insistence felt like another brick in the wall she was building around my past. "It's family history, Sarah," I murmured, feeling a familiar tension rise in me. "I've always liked having it around." She sighed, a delicate, put-upon sound. "But what good is it doing in the garage? It's not like you even remember your grandmother, honey. It's just clutter, taking up space we could use for a new garden bench." She kept pushing, a drip, drip, drip of suggestion, persuasion, and a touch of exasperation. "Think of the new space, the decluttering. It's good for the mind, you know? Less clutter, less stress." Her gaze lingered on me, sharp and expectant. The desk, she knew, was a link. A tenuous, forgotten link, but a link nonetheless. She wanted it gone. Reluctantly, I agreed. I couldn't articulate why I wanted to keep it, just a vague, instinctual pull. But Sarah's relentless positivity, her carefully constructed arguments about practicality and mental well-being slowly wore me down. I told her I'd clean it out myself over the weekend, prepare it for sale. That Saturday, the sun streamed through the dusty garage window, illuminating motes dancing in the air as I began to empty the old desk. Each drawer yielded old bills, forgotten tools, trinkets from a life I mostly remembered through Sarah's filter. As I reached the bottommost drawer, my fingers brushed against something odd. It wasn't the smooth, finished wood of the drawer bottom. It was rougher, almost a seam. I pressed, and a small panel clicked inward, revealing a hidden compartment, dark and smelling faintly of old paper and dust. My breath hitched. Sarah had never mentioned this. Had she known? Inside, nestled beneath a layer of yellowed tissue paper, was a small, tarnished silver locket and a single photograph. My hands trembled as I pulled out the photo. It was me, but younger, much younger, perhaps in my early 20s. My hair was longer, my face less etched with time, a vibrant, unburdened smile on my lips. And standing beside me, her arm linked through mine, was a woman. She was beautiful, with an infectious laugh sparkling in her eyes, a cascade of auburn hair framing a face I didn't recognize, yet felt a profound, devastating connection to. We were standing in front of a stone archway, ivy-covered, with a distinctive, intricately carved sundial visible just over her shoulder. On the back, in faded ink, were 3 words, "Our place." Always. A wave of nausea washed over me. The smell of cut grass, the bright laugh, the familiar ache in my chest, it all converged in that single image. My fingers traced the woman's face. Who was she? Why did she feel so intensely mine? And why had Sarah never shown me this? The locket lay heavy in my palm, cool against my skin. I opened it. Inside, 2 tiny, circular photos, one of the woman and one of me, both smiling. On the back, etched faintly, was a date, June 12, 1998. That date was 25 years ago, the year of my accident. My mind reeled. This wasn't some fragmented dream. This was tangible proof of a life, a person, that had been deliberately erased. The sundial. I knew that sundial. I'd seen it in my dreams, always just out of focus. A primal, desperate urge seized me. I had to know. I raced inside, the photo clutched in my hand, my heart a drumbeat against my ribs. I sat at my computer, fingers flying over the keyboard, searching for Stone Archway, Ivy Sundial, Denver. It took several agonizing minutes, refining my search, zooming in on old maps, until a small, local historical park's archive image flickered into view. The sundial was unmistakable. My hands were shaking so violently I could barely type. I searched the park's archives, then local newspapers, narrowing my search to June 1998. And then, there it was. A grainy digital reproduction of a newspaper headline, dated June 15, 1998. Fatal CR accident claims local woman, leaves fiancé critically injured. The words blurred before my eyes, then sharpened into horrifying clarity. The article detailed a severe single-car collision on a winding road near the park. It named the deceased, Laura Jensen, 23. My fiancé, the woman in the photo. It named the critically injured survivor, Ethan Reed, 25. Me. And then, the third party. The driver, Sarah Hayes, 24, a friend of the couple, who had fled the scene in a state of shock and was later apprehended. The article noted that toxicology reports were pending for the driver and mentioned police investigating potential negligence and reckless endangerment. My world didn't just shatter, it imploded. A guttural cry escaped my throat, raw and involuntary. The air left my lungs, leaving me gasping for breath, clutching at my chest as if to hold my heart from bursting. Laura. Her name, a whisper I finally recognized, a sound that tore through the decades of fabricated peace. My fiancé. Not Sarah. Sarah, the driver. Sarah, who caused the accident that killed Laura. Sarah, who then fled, and later, carefully, meticulously, pieced together my new life, a life built entirely on a lie. The shock was a physical force, knocking the wind out of me. I slumped forward, my head in my hands, the newspaper article burning into my mind. Every kind word, every loving gesture, every gentle "don't look back" from Sarah, twisted into a grotesque mockery. She hadn't just been my rescuer. She had been my destroyer. She had stolen Laura's life, and then she had stolen mine. She had taken my memory, my identity, my very self, and replaced it with a docile, grateful man who loved her and believed her narrative. For 25 years, I had been living a ghost's life, haunted by memories I didn't know were real. The life I mourned in my nightmares, the face I couldn't quite grasp, the love I instinctively felt was missing. It was all real. It was Laura. The fragmented memories flooded back, no longer vague and disembodied. The scent of Laura's hair, the way she crinkled her nose when she laughed, the feel of her hand in mine, the dreams we shared of designing a small, sustainable home together, the excitement of our engagement, the plans for a future that had been brutally cut short, the argument that night, the rain, the fear, the sudden impact, the screech of tires, the terrifying silence that followed. It was all there, vivid and devastating. And Sarah was there too, not as a loving friend in the passenger seat, but behind the wheel, panicked, running, leaving us broken and bleeding. When Sarah came home that evening, humming a cheerful tune as she unlocked the front door, I was waiting. I stood in the living room, the newspaper clipping printed out, the photo of Laura and me, the locket, all laid out on the coffee table like evidence in a terrible trial. The silence that fell as she saw them was deafening. Her face drained of color, her eyes wide with a terror that finally, didn't feel feigned. "Ethan," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "What have you done? What have you done, Sarah?" My voice was a stranger's, hoarse with grief and rage. "You killed her. You killed Laura. And then you killed me." She collapsed onto the sofa, tears streaming down her face, a torrent of frantic, desperate pleas. "I didn't mean to. It was an accident. I panicked. I was so scared, Ethan. I loved you even then. I couldn't bear to lose you again. When you woke up, so lost, so empty, I saw a chance. I knew I could make you happy. I was so afraid you'd remember, that you'd hate me. I was just trying to protect you, protect us." Her words were a pathetic tangle of self-pity and manipulation, revealing the monstrous depths of her deception. She spoke of her love, her fear, her desperation, but all I heard was the chilling echo of her selfishness, her willingness to erase two lives to save her own skin and secure her own desires. There was no remorse for Laura, only for her own predicament, her own carefully constructed lie unraveling. The devastation was absolute, but with it came a chilling clarity. The fog lifted, and I saw her, truly saw her, for the first time in 25 years. She wasn't my savior. She was my captor. The woman I had loved, respected, built my life with, was a ghost, a carefully crafted illusion. There was no forgiveness in me, no space for it. Only a vast, aching emptiness where my heart used to be, now filled with an icy resolve. I didn't scream, I didn't rage. My voice was calm, unnervingly so, even to myself. "Get out, Sarah," she pleaded. She wept, she clung to me, but her touch was poison. I felt nothing but revulsion. I packed a small bag, booked a hotel room, and walked out the door, leaving her sobbing amidst the ruins of the life she had so painstakingly built on lies. The house, once a sanctuary, now felt like a tomb, every corner whispering of stolen moments, of a stolen life. The divorce was swift, brutal, and emotionally sterile. I delegated everything to my lawyers, refusing to be in the same room as Sarah unless absolutely necessary. Her pleas for reconciliation, for understanding, were met with a wall of cold, unyielding silence. The truth was a chasm too wide to bridge, filled with the ghost of Laura and the specter of my own lost youth. I sold the house, the physical embodiment of the lie, every familiar object now tainted with the bitter taste of betrayal. It was a wrenching process, but I knew I couldn't stay. I needed to burn it all down to ashes before I could even think of rebuilding. I left Denver, leaving behind the architect I thought I was, the life I thought I had, and the woman who had stolen it all. I bought a small, older home in a quiet town in coastal Oregon, a place far removed from the Rocky Mountains and the buried past. The sound of the ocean, a constant, soothing rumble, became my new companion. My quest began then, a painful, solitary journey to reconstruct the true Ethan Reed. I visited Laura's grave, a small, weathered headstone I found in an old cemetery outside Denver. I laid a single rose and wept for the future we never had, for the years of her life that were taken, and for the life that was stolen from me. I found old college yearbooks, tracked down those nervous acquaintances, and pieced together fragments of the man I was, the man I was meant to be. It was a slow, agonizing process, like an archaeologist painstakingly unearthing a forgotten civilization, each shard of memory, each rediscovered photo, each hesitant conversation, a treasure and a fresh wound. I learned about my passion for jazz music, a love I hadn't realized I'd lost. I discovered old sketches of whimsical, innovative buildings, ideas I'd had before Sarah had redirected my career towards more stable corporate architecture. I found Laura's old journals, filled with her dreams, her vibrant personality, her hopes for our future. Reading her words, seeing the world through her eyes, felt like a reunion, a profound and bittersweet gift. I grieved her anew, not as a vague concept, but as the vivid, intelligent, loving woman she was. I grieved for the years I had spent living a shadow life, unknowingly betraying her memory. It's been 3 years since I walked out that door. I'm not the same man. I'm 53 now, a man with a past that is darker, more tragic, and far more complex than the comfortable narrative Sarah H. had spun. The scars are deep, visible only to me, but they are there. But with the pain came liberation. I am no longer a puppet, dancing to someone else's tune. I am real. I am Ethan Reed, the man who loved Laura, the man who survived a terrible betrayal, the man who finally found his way back to himself. The journey is far from over. There are still days when the sorrow is overwhelming, when the injustice of it all threatens to consume me. But now, I face it, I feel it, and I let it pass. I design homes for people who value truth and connection, smaller, more personal projects that resonate with the dreams Laura and I once shared. The ocean stretches before me, vast and eternal, a constant reminder of the depth of life, its beauty, its pain, and its endless capacity for renewal. I finally feel free, untethered from the lies. And in that freedom, there is a quiet, profound peace.